Okay, we're back again, and we're going to finish up on putting the chain on. And the reason we teach you about putting a chain on, because a lot of time, if you have to have it sharpened professionally, you just send this in, and then they give it back to you, and you have to install it on your bar, okay? And the other thing that I forgot to show you, and we'll get back to that in a minute, but the other part on the bar, if Thomas could get in close, these are called sprocket noses. I don't know if you can see, there's a little sprocket in there. And that chain comes around and rides on that, and it reduces the friction. Years ago, we didn't have this. They were called hardtip. And so we used to burn them up a lot sooner. These bars, you won't. Well, if you know anything about bicycles and everything with a sprocket, you have to keep them lubricated. So anyway, right here, there's a little hole right there. And there's one on the other side. Just a tiny hole. And you use this grease gun and you put it in the hole. Any grease in it? Yeah, grease is in it. Maybe it's not going in.
Huh. Maybe it's gunked up inside the bar.
Yeah.
It's all right.
We'll have to clean all this up now. Making a mess. But anyway, the reason I'm showing you this, you can burn up your bar if you don't lubricate that sprocket. So whenever you buy a chainsaw or rent it, you want to make sure you get one of these little grease guns that are made just for that, and use it. Okay. Okay. Outside of that, because most of the time, Thomas, when you go to rent stuff now, are they the battery electric or are they still 2-cycle?
Oh, I've never rented a chainsaw, Gus.
No.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Because I think they're very expensive, so I don't know if how they rent them. But that's the thing in the future, I think, probably. But so the starting process is always, push the brake on. That
guy's stiff, isn't he? Oh,
you got to push on this one pretty hard. You pull. Now you can start it. Most of them have directions, because this one, I think, has a
is there a primer on there? No.
No, I don't think this one does.
No compression, no nothing.
No. I think this one over here, right here, has a little...
has a little bulb?
Yeah, right there. It's a primer button.
There it is.
So a primer button, you push it a couple times. Only the first time you start after it hasn't been run. Otherwise, like on most of these, you pull the choke out, make sure you pull the trigger and push this down. If you don't push this down, the trigger won't work. So you're supposed to grip it, pull that, okay? The on and off button, always check where that is. They're all different. Everyone is different. So until you get familiar with it, you got to look it over. Don't just think you walk up the chainsaw, start up and get going. All of them are a little bit different, okay?
That Poland's got all the instructions right there on the back.
Right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
Take a look at that. In case you forgot.
And that's a Poland. That's a pretty good name saw too. Like I said, years ago they were simpler to start. Just like a lot of your lawnmowers, they were easier to start with all the safety features and pollution things. They have all these other parts on them, and a little bit more difficult, and they're not all the same. That's the thing that bothers me more than anything. They're all so different, I like to have everything. A lot of you maybe don't know, but in my history, I took up scuba diving. And when you do scuba diving, you don't have to look. You're supposed to have it up here and in your hands. You lose your regulator, you sweep down and pick it up. You push a button, everything is the same. You want to know your gear. So this is what it is. So if you do rent a chainsaw, and let's say it's this one, always try and rent this one, this brand and this model, because you get to understand that, okay? And that's the easiest way I could tell you to do it, okay? Then the other thing is, you know, look where you put, if you're using fuel, we're not electric now, find out which one was the fuel. Here you got a thing to open up, and I'm pretty sure that's fuel. And then up in here, they got another one. This is for chain oil. So oil comes out automatically on that chain every so many revolutions. And the reason for that is you could see there's friction, metal on metal. And if you don't do it, what you do, you stretch the chain and you wear out the bar. The bar is fairly parallel side to side, and if you don't oil it, this gets all worn out. And one of these probably costs, oh, the cheapest one's probably about 35 bucks, and go up from there. So if you take good care of these things, and usually chainsaws, you get in the habit of having one chainsaw, it's kind of an older one, and you cut dead wood with it. Use any of your other saws for green wood. They're made to cut green wood. Like when there's been a forest fire, they have different chains they put on the bar that could cut that wood because it gets very hard. It's like dead wood. Okay? So you have to know where to put the fuel, where to put the chain oil. The chain oil, you could buy chain oil, you could put 30 weight, okay, in there. Some of the old ones, like the little yellow one, it's got a button right by your thumb. Where your thumb would go, there's a little piece of metal up there, up high, right here. You press that and it pumps a little bit of oil. Years ago, they had oilers that way, that you're supposed to punch the oil manually. And then what they found out, a lot of workers and people that rented them didn't do that. Didn't want to be bothered, and they'd burn up the chain and the bar. So then the manufacturers, to get around that, they put automatic oilers on it. So every so many revolutions, a little bit of oil comes out, okay? And that's why the gas tank is usually the side that will run until the oil and the oiler is almost out. So whenever you gas up, you put oil for your chain at the same time, okay? Outside of that, of the chainsaw, I think the safest thing is you can't, if you're on a ladder or in a tree, you never just hold the chainsaw. It better be tied to a rope, to the ladder or the tree. I don't like to use chainsaws in a ladder because the legs wobble and I get unsteady. I don't mind being in a tree because I'm strapped in and I think I'm more secure. Okay, but when you're on a ladder, even at that, maybe have a rope to one of your rungs so when it falls, it doesn't hit the ground. Otherwise, you're buying a new chainsaw. When you're up in a tree, you lose your saw. You're out of business for the day. You know, that chainsaw is gone. Because a lot of these are plastic or magnesium. They're not a heavy steel. They had a Poland one time. I went to a trade show and they had one, it was cast something or other, very light but thick. And the guy showed you how tough it was, he threw it. Well, I saw another saw like that and I grabbed it and said, oh, this one too? And I went to pretend like I was going to throw, no, he said, you know, only this one. Of course, this one cost $700. This one was $250, you know, so that you can see where the difference comes. Okay, so that's about all I could tell you on chainsaws. And safety is everything. And the only other thing I could tell you is if you are in a tree, make sure nobody's underneath where you are. And in my class, and when I taught tree class, dialogue is everything when you're in a tree work. You know, one man, a 2-man, 3-man, a 4-man crew, you better be talking to everybody. You have to know where everybody is, and the groundmen have to know what the man up in the tree is doing, because that's when the injuries and accidents happen. Good luck and be careful. See you later.